walking down the street.
I do want to say to Doni and many of you in this room that over a very long career in this city, all of you have helped me and my colleagues tell the truth and to try to tell.
I may not look like you and you me, but
my head up.
I'm South Carolina, so I just
What does this event mean to you, Miss Peggy Moss?
Oh, my heart.
Happy 20th anniversary.
My heart is about loving up on my sisters. Do you know what it feels like to have your sisters in the room? Done.
and dare to be different and unique. I'm gonna be the best me I can be by letting His glory shine through. I am beautiful, I am blessed, but not just what you see in the flesh. I'm free from people, free from myself. There's
The doctor lived next door to the janitor to the reverend and the lawyer. We were together. Now we get so high and mighty that you create stress for your society because you don't like poor black folks either. That's a health problem. Get yourself together so I can stop being taking care of geriatric people and get back to pediatrics. I thank you, Doni, for all you've done. Let's keep doing it all the more.
letting His glory shine through. Dare to be you, dare to be me, dare to be different and unique. I'm gonna be the best me I can be by letting His glory shine through. And I dare you, I dare you, I dare you to be you.
First name's Doni, last name's Glover. In it to win it for the long haul baby. So today we're going to talk with Nicole Hanson Mundell. She's with Out for Justice. Nicole, you got your camera on? You ready? Nicole.
Can you hear me?
You cut your camera on, baby. This is a video.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
You can hear me?
Yeah.
How you doing? I'm
Good.
sorry, my camera moves in and out. Let me make sure your viewers can.
Yeah, why don't you go to your right a little bit, because the daylight kind of, so you got indoor light and you got outdoor light.
Okay, give me 1 second.
So we're talking about mass incarceration today. America represents 5% of the world's population, yet America has 25% of the world's inmates. At last check, black men alone comprise about 40% of the prisons. Now, when you think that we're just 13% of the population, but we're almost half of the number of people in prison, it's very disparaging. It's very disconcerting when you think this small minority of people, and the small minority of people are the majority of the people in prison, and black women are the fastest growing demographic. What do we do? And when you look at the city of Baltimore, I live in 21217. Nicole's over there. What you in 05 or East Baltimore, West Baltimore? These two communities we manufacture inmates. I mean, I don't even know any other way to put it. We are the people starring in that movie. The minority. One last thing, internationally, I said this country represents 5% of the world's population. We have 25% of the world's inmates. We have as many inmates as China, which is 5 times bigger than the US. They have 1.4 billion people. Nicole, what's this mean to you?
What does it mean to me to hear the very gut-wrenching numbers? What it means to me is that there is work to do, both policy reform type of work and both direct service on the ground work. It means that we all had some responsibility in these numbers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Both from the highest levels of government to both individual people walking amongst us, right? Individual taxpaying citizens. What it means is that we have the solutions, and those solutions should be heard by those who are in leadership and power to help implement those solutions. Which brings me on your show today to talk about some solutions to these statistics that you make widely available.
Let me share this with you. What is the biggest cause? We're gonna come over there and snatch that smoke alarm off your wall. What is the
Oh my God! Everybody tells me, so you can hear the beeping sound.
Yeah. What is the biggest cause of mass incarceration? And this is where, and you said it, we all play a role in this. We all play a role in this. What is the biggest cause? Hello, Tampa. The biggest cause of mass incarceration is the war on drugs. They have a dispensary down on Cathedral Street all day, every day. And I had to go in there. I had to see the layout. White boys selling weed legally. And it's not black owned. You can look at it and tell it is white run. They're playing hip hop music. They selling weed in Baltimore, downtown Baltimore, getting paid. I think of people I grew up with who got locked up for a dime, an ounce, what have you. They get hemmed up. One thing leads to another. They stab somebody in jail. Then they picked up another charge. And what was the same thing as these white boys downtown selling weed, playing hip hop, half high. Our people get locked up. Then they got a record. Then they go get a job. Have you ever been incarcerated? Do you have any felonies? This white boy downtown getting paid. And so then when the blacks go and try to get a license to either grow or dispensary
or even transport, we can't even transport the marijuana from one place to another. Let's be also clear, Donnie. There, University of Maryland has a degree for growing cannabis. They have a whole new, I think they're in their second year. One can go and receive a bachelor's degree in cannabis and growing and selling and all the things about cannabis. Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Go look it up. Yeah. You can now get a bachelor's degree in cannabis.
That I know Cassie should be getting a PhD. Who could be getting a PhD? The disparity, the lack of equity, the uneven, where one group of people, whites, get to make money, unfettered money, unadulterated profit. Another group gets penalized just because you're black. They won't let blacks into the business aspect of it for all of these BS reasons. I've been to a dispensary. I've watched them grow it down in Anne Arundel County. Very tight, scientifically sealed. You know, you wear the whole hazmat suit and all of that. Legal. But the young boy over at the sub shop who's selling out of his backpack,
you don't have a chance.
Not in the big scheme of things. He's no different than if you've ever been to Jamaica and you see the vendors lined up all selling pretty much the same items. That's kind of how it is watching the Weed Boys. It's like you're all selling the same thing, getting it pretty much from the same person.
Here's what I want to talk about, Donna, because you're right. We have all these unjust policies, antiquated policies that seek to further criminalize black people, right? And you're right that the rate of incarceration for women in this country has grown over 300%. I think the Vera Institute just released a report around that. What we seek to do at Out for Justice at this particular time is to work to reduce violence, right? And we do it in this very innovative way because we believe that violence is caused by stress, right? Stress of a father not being able to provide for his family. The stress of a grandson who lives with his grandmother not being able to help her navigate her retirement benefits when she gets that letter in the mail that her benefits is going to be cut off if she does not respond virtually through email and all these kinds of things. The stress of not being able to afford adequate education for your children and having to put them in a school that you know is not interested in their growth, right? Is not interested in their success. The stress of knowing that you qualify for a job, but because of your criminal background, you cannot get that job. The stress of knowing that ever since you've been 10 years old, you wanted to become a nurse, but because of the Department of Licensing procedures and regulations, if you have certain backgrounds, you cannot become this nurse. The stress leads to the being upset, that leads to you being angry, that leads to you being mad, that then leads ultimately to some act of violence, right? And so what we understand is if we can begin to reduce the stress in our city, then we can begin to reduce the violence that is happening on all levels, right? And so ever since...
Can I get one in?
Sure.
In? The stress of traversing North Avenue, in which you're used to 2 and 3 lanes of traffic, but some damn brain surgeon who is chasing federal dollars puts a damn bike lane.
Don't get me started.
Straight across North Avenue, east to west, where you got traffic backed up from North and Mount Royal all the way up to North and Fulton, and then some rent-a-cop and the MTA police come up behind you. Whoop, whoop! Who's pulling people over for riding in that free lane? The stress.
The stress, right? The stress of not being able to afford, the red light tickets and the speeding tickets, right? And that stress of having all those tickets then impacts your driver's license. So now you're a CDL driver and you have these moving violations and you can't get the job that you went to school to get. The stress, right? And so the stress of not being able to access a therapist when you need one, right? The
Lord
stress,
knows I need one.
We all do. The stress of knowing that there's a job fair tomorrow, but you're at work from 9 to 6 and you can't get a resume. And so you just don't go to that job fair because what you need is a decent resume to walk up in that place, right? And so what we seek to do ever since 2017, which was originally a call by 2 Black women, Erica and Ellen G, who asked us in 2017, hey, no shooting for 72 hours. Hey, community organizations from all across this great city, can you come and for 72 hours, can you contribute to life? Can you figure out a way to support this work? And so what me and my board president did at the time is that we began to think about what we did at OFJ that we knew how to do well, because we knew at that time we were no violent interventionists. We were still trying to figure out, how to not be violent ourselves as formerly incarcerated people coming out and having to navigate trauma and navigate our attitudes and navigate conflict, right? We were still struggling with that ourselves. But we did know how to bring resources to the people. We did know that we had our ears to the ground of the people. We did know that Out for Justice is respected in every hood, across every hood, neighborhood, community across the city. And so what we were committed to doing is saying, how can we ensure that we can get lawyers in community during these untraditional hours? And that was the goal, right? If our city is saying, if the numbers are saying that crime is happening the most between these very untraditional hours, right? This 7 or 8 p.m. to this 4 a.m., what would it look like for us to intentionally disrupt that violence or those violent acts, right? Or crime? What would it look like for us to meet people where they are and bring those necessary supports to the people during untraditional times of the day? We were intentionally seeking to break down this stigma around who can receive services and when. This whole idea that you should only be able to get access to an agency or access to the different supports during this 9 to 5 hour, because we understood that people worked until 6, 7. People did 12-hour shifts, but it didn't mean they didn't need support with getting a will started, right? And knowing how to process a will. It didn't mean that they did not need their records expunged. It did not mean that men did not need to know how to get custody of their children in a way that made them feel like. It did not mean that, right? And so what we did was we identified every resource imaginable in this city, in this state, and we reached out to those entities to say, come be uncomfortable with us on this day, right? Because we know that community isn't often comfortable when they're out there, right? They don't get to decide if it's winter or spring or summer. They got to be out there in the streets whenever they got to be out there in those streets, right? And so we're not the type of advocates that do work when it's convenient for us, when it feels good to us, when it feels good outside, when we are in best position. We go in community when they need us. And so that is what birthed the all-night community resource clinic, Doni. That we are willing, once community asks us, right? Because we don't just pop up in your hood. We ask you, can we come? Somebody from your neighborhood, somebody from your community has asked us, can you all come and bring this innovative, groundbreaking event to our neighborhood? And once we're asked, then we shoot into how can we raise the necessary dollars to get this done, which every year we've been supported by T. Rowe Price, John Brothers have shown up every year without any accolades. I think this is the first time ever that I even said his name in terms of funding this particular project. But what we seek to do is we're coming in community from 4 p.m. to 4 a.m. Yes, I said it. From 4 p.m. to 4 a.m. We are going to be at Monument Street and Bradford. We're partnering this year with brother Uncle T of Challenge to Change. He does phenomenal work with young people over there in East Baltimore, and the Infusion Partnership Grants Group, which is some of the McElderry Park community associations. And we're going to bring attorneys, both criminal attorneys civil attorneys, Black mental health professionals, health and human service practitioners, resume writers. We're going to have dinner. We're going to break bread with our loved ones there. We're going to have breakfast at about 2:30 a.m. Folks are going to be receiving fresh omelets and whatever your desire is for breakfast. We're going to have a kid zone because we understand that our young people are outside at night, Donnie. Our young people are outside at night. We're going to bring entertainment from that neighborhood. We're going to contract with the individuals in that neighborhood to bring the services that we know people need during these untraditional hours of the day.
Let's go into a bit of it. Out for Justice is a grassroots organization that received their official nonprofit status in 2012, founded by a group of formerly incarcerated individuals who were ready and willing to work, but repeatedly denied employment due to their criminal record. With the support of justice impacted individuals, their friends, and their family members, Out for Justice strives to bring about policy reform that ends employment barriers and perpetual punishment that adversely affects citizens impacted by the criminal legal system. There are a couple of things I wanted to say to you, Nicole. You still there?
Yeah, something's going on with my camera. It's like in and out, but I'm sorry.
So when I see Bradford Street, I gotta tell you, my first memories were Patterson Park and Landville. And my mother would say to me, I guess I was about 3 at the time, 1968. She said, "Don't go around Bradford Street or the boogeyman gonna get you."
Right.
Bradford Street, my God. And I've seen since then the what do they call it? There was an initiative that Hogan put in place to knock down the vacants. So when I saw them,
and that's where we're going to be.
Right there.
Right there.
Wow, I tell you, it was so refreshing to see so many of these vacants come down, and it just, you have people who own these vacants. Anyway, I digress. Let me get back to this. Here's the question I wanted to ask you: why do you care?
Why do I care?
I know, real simple question, right?
Yeah, but it's very complex. But I care because I am born and raised in Baltimore City. I care because I am the people that we serve. I care because I want to see black people win. I care because I understand that we live in a country, in a state, in a city that is made up around systems and policies and procedures. And I want to be able to help people understand how to navigate this environment, right, that we live in, that is filled with policy, procedures, and rules. And I want everyday people to understand and know how to use government to work for them, right? Because they are the reason why government is held up. They are the reason why these infrastructures are maintained. They are the reason why the court system still operates as it does. They are the reason why new homes are being built and broken down. They are the reason why we have our transportation system. They are the reason why we have government. Their tax-paying dollars, whether they believe it or not, contributes to everything that they see and walk around and ride their bikes past and ride their cars past. And that they have a voice.
You want us to have access.
That's it. I want people to know that they have a right to the access. And I want the people, the stakeholders who have that access to extend that access to our people whenever it is. Right?
Because we've been overlooked so long.
Yeah.
For a number of reasons. You want people to get on their
Donnie, job. I care because there's this saying that we use a lot, and I don't think many of us advocates understand what that saying really means. And we often find ourselves saying, we meet people where they are. right? You ever hear people say that? I want to meet people where they are. And I often want to know, what do they mean by that? Because
Physically,
oftentimes, if you want to meet somebody where they are, you have to accept exactly where they are, where their thinking is, where their mentality is, what their beliefs are, what their what geographically where they are. And that's what we seek to do at Out for Justice, especially with this event, is that we don't want people to have to open up a door to get to us, because then that means we're not meeting them where they are. That means we're asking them to come where we are. And so this all night event literally places ourselves right in the center of one's neighborhood, right?
oh yeah,
Where people are traveling the most.
especially
And
if you're
so,
out there with the music.
I'm sorry.
Especially if you out there with the music.
Oh, you know we're gonna be out there with the music. We work with local artists. Last year's event was Chenga brought his live band. We were in Douglas Homes right outside, playing jazz music, you know. And so yes, we're gonna have live music, live entertainment. We want the community marching band there. um, it, I think last year when we went and surveyed the community in Douglas Homes, guess what the people asked for, Donnie? They asked for
God.
exterminators. They asked for their houses to be exterminated.
Bishop Barry told me about it. You know, Bishop Barry Chapman. He told me about some of his. He has a part of that contract over there. He said he found a little girl playing with a rat.
And so what we did was we raised some money and we were able to get 60 people, 60 to 80 people signed up to get exterminated. So we contracted with a Black-owned exterminator company. And what they were able to do between the hours of 4 p.m. and 4 a.m., the folks that signed up, they went and they got their houses exterminated. People asked for CPR lessons, right? CPR certifications. And one of the vendors was like, well, we're not going to be able to do that because we gotta be inside and we gotta have all these things. And I said, well, you know, if you can't do it, we'll find somebody to do it. And we were able to contract with a CPR company that was able to set up outside. They did the training outside, and people walked away, Donnie, with CPR certifications. We set up under a tent where the Black mental health professionals are. We recreate a doctor's office. So a company rented out beautiful furniture to us that night. We had an oriental rug out there with some plants on the side. And when people walked up, they felt like they were in a therapist's office, right?
That's what should have happened after Freddie Gray. They should have had Winnebagos up and down North Avenue with therapists in it. You know, you let something happen in the white community, is the mass shooting. Oh, we have counselors out there to help people. The whole damn West Baltimore needed some damn counselors. But it's almost like we are expected to be used to trauma. The white people need therapy, but Black people are expected to be used to this therapy.
Isn't that right?
I mean, you
And so we're making the call for therapists of all walks of life to come and provide therapy and mediation. We're working with community mediation to provide some levels of mediation. We even had acupuncture out there, Donnie, as a form of drug treatment. Acupuncture really works for me. And so, yeah. And so we're going
to come driving across North Avenue and you got to go a mile all the way to Fulton Avenue to cross North Avenue. And you mentioned earlier, it makes you angry. It makes you angry that you got to spend an extra 5 or 10 minutes navigating this dumb traffic idea. And what happens? You're angry. You finally get through there, and then you heavy on your gas foot. Somebody trying to walk across the street, And it's not that you are not thinking about them. You just think about what you just went through. On top of that, the speed cameras and the rent-a-cop in the MTA truck.
And
You're
boom,
angry.
somebody
You're
said
angry.
something wrong, or somebody said something you don't like, and boom, you go off. You didn't go off because of that minor encounter. You went off because of all the other things that had
On
just
top of
compounded
it.
on it. The
I get
stress,
it. I get
the
it.
stress,
Stress. And then you
it's
got
the
some
stress.
elected officials who are about as disconnected. I mean, honestly, some have the mental capacity of a dyslexic snail on a bag of fentanyl laced with Ritalin.
Oh Lord, oh Lord.
They just don't know. And then some of these elected officials is like, why are you in office?
Well, let me tell you about the elected officials and how
No.
our event operates with them. Ever since 2017, we have been really clear that this is not a place where you come and hand out your campaign literature for elected officials. We welcome them to come and give community whatever their expertise is. So elected officials are welcome, but your campaign literature is not welcome. What is welcome is what are you providing in your office that this community can benefit from? Maybe you bring your liaison to come and help people figure out how to put in an email to you to complain about a thing. Or maybe you bring your intern to come and help people sign up for scholarships, right? Or maybe you bring your intern to help educate folks about what new law you sponsored that they can benefit. Maybe you come and connect them with a specific agency that will be able to implement the law that you pass. And so we're asking, one, we've invited the elected officials in that particular district, which is on the council level is Councilman Antonio Glover. On the state level, it starts with Senator McCray, Delegate Stephanie Smith, Delegate Kaylin Young, and also Delegate Jackie Addison. They all were invited and all are being reached out to say, come and be with community during these untraditional hours, but figure out what you do well, what your expertise is, and give that to community. And that is what we're saying to all of your listeners, Doni. If you think that you have a skill set, a knowledge of something, we want you to come share that with our community at that time. And we want you to be prepared to administer on the spot. This is not your traditional resource fair where you come and somebody comes and picks up a piece of paper and then they walk off and they got this whole bag of flyers. No. We want you to be prepared to offer that specific service on the spot. Doni, I hope you come and stream live from the all-night event.
I'm putting it on my calendar now. Can I get a word in there? Because you just took over my show.
I mean, you invited me to come take over your show.
No, I didn't. Okay, so if this is a all-nighter, are you familiar? I'm gonna mess this thing up. Do you know that the two most memorable, for me, all-night events in terms of advocacy? One was Mary Pat Clark. The night that Mary Pat Clark went and spent the night, I think it was down Murphy Homes, Lexington Terrace. She won points for decades. She did what no one thought to do. And she probably had the time of her life. The second was the Big Fat Morning Show. This was back in the late 90s. They did an all-nighter outside of Western District Police Station. So this event has historical implications. And I will be there. I mean, Bradford Street, that's where the boogeyman at. But also, you mentioned Senator McCray, you mentioned the three delegates, you mentioned Councilman Glover. I have to ask you, and you've been in Annapolis, you understand how to traverse the state Senate, the House of Delegates, the Maryland General Assembly. That's where you go. You spend time there every year during the 90-day session. Who has been helpful to out for justice in your time there? What elected officials have helped you?
From that particular district?
No. In Maryland.
We received a lot of support from
Stop
a
playing. Good
variety
names.
of.
Come on.
I'll go so far back as Delegate Eric Barron, who's now the federal prosecutor for Maryland. But then he was a staunch advocate for criminal justice reform. Delegate Eric Barron. I would say Delegate Stephanie Smith, who is the delegate in the 45th district. I would say Senator Mary Washington has been a support to Out for Justice in terms of our policy reform work. I would say Delegate Gabe Acevedo out of Montgomery County has always been there to support us, especially with our women's pre-release work around getting monies allocated to the budget. I would say former Delegate Susan Proctor. I think she's out of Prince George's County, but she's no longer a delegate now. I would say Delegate Moon. I think Delegate Moon is also out of Montgomery County. In terms of sponsorships, I would say Delegate Wilkins was a good ear to listen and respond to what we were saying our members wanted and needed, especially when it came to employment behind the walls and the exploitation of our loved ones in prison around MCE, the Maryland Correctional Enterprise, and the ways in which that they were paying our loved ones to do work that out here you would have to pay $25 an hour. She put in a study bill for us to look at the racial inequities that was happening in MCE.
Okay, you've mentioned some names: Eric Barron, Stephanie Smith, Mary Washington, Gabe Acevedo, Susan Proctor, Delegate Moon, Delegate Wilkins. This is the other thing I want to ask you. Black women, the fastest growing demographic in America's prisons. We as a people make up 13 to 15%, some people say 20, of the U.S. population. Black men alone make up 40% of the prisons. With Black women being the fastest growing demographic, it's almost as if American prisons are likened unto Black people. It's like a Black institution. Friday, I got to tell you, we're bringing Mark Booker on the show. He is educating men at the Jessup House of Corrections, helping them to get their bachelor's degree.
Yeah, is he working with P2P under the leadership of Stanley and Dr. Stanley and Drees? I think that's what.
I don't know the answer to that. We'll find out. But I know he's actually working on his PhD on this very topic. We are the experts when it comes to mass incarceration. And there are issues, Nicole, that many people don't even know. I've learned, for instance, that out in California, you can have a private cell. The privatization of prisons is a part of the issue because people are making money off of prisons. Build more prisons, and what does building more prisons necessitate? Well, more inmates.
Yeah, we're not interested in making prisons comfortable. We want alternatives to incarceration.
But I'm
We
saying
don't.
in California, if you have the money, you can buy a private cell.
Hmm.
It's big industry. Or here's something that I know that you have dealt with: the price of a phone call. How much
Yeah,
does
we
it cost?
introduced some legislation on that this year
Tell,
to help
please
families.
speak to that. Single mother, East Baltimore. She trying to talk to her son who's locked up.
Or her brother or her
Or brother.
nephew that she's been taking care of since he was a baby. And
How much? How
families
much is
can't
that phone
afford it.
call? How
We
much
can't
is it?
afford it.
How much is it?
Mm. I think it's somewhere between like 25 cents or 30 cents a minute or something like that. Um, I don't have the exact numbers, but I'll make sure I get them to you. But we're introducing legislation that would remove the price of phone calls and
But,
allow our loved ones to call for free
but it's been a problem.
for a long time.
They were taxing just to make a simple call. It was like it's one phone call.
Right. As if you're calling out of the country. Mhm.
That's the diabolical, hateful nature. And you can't, I mean, black people look at it as some racist shit.
And now, once we get the legislation that would remove the fee for phone calls, we're also going to have to think about how they're going to start charging our loved ones for internet access, right? For Wi-Fi, to send an email, because now they are integrating tablets in some prisons and jails across the state of Maryland. So when we stop one thing, you know,
It's another
there's a
thing.
whole nother thing that we have to address.
Something else that was brought to my attention. If a cat gets locked up and he has a heroin habit, they put him on they put or her on a certain kind of drug, and the name just escapes me. Suboxone.
Yep.
What should the average person on the streets understand about Suboxone? Is it Suboxone?
It's called Suboxone. It's other forms like methadone. And it's supposed to be something that weans you off of heroin so that you can eventually be drug free. And in the state of Maryland, there is no regulations around how long one is supposed to stay on Suboxone or methadone. And there's no regulations or policies around how much a doctor can increase a dosage. So that's a whole other industry where folks are interested in becoming full sober, right? Sober from all mind-altering substances. And Suboxone is also a very addictive drug itself,
That's what
right?
they tell me. They say you'll get killed if you get in the middle of somebody and there's Suboxone early in the morning. They say you will get killed.
I don't know about getting killed. What I do know is that Maryland, the healthcare industry is not, we also got to think about the criminalization of healthcare and the ways in which Black people are not valued in healthcare, and the ways in which Black people are not able to have a meaningful conversations with their healthcare professionals about long-term care, right? And how to prevent illnesses and the like, right? It's not widely known that we should be engaged with our dietitian. I think the dietitian is the most unutilized person in healthcare, right? And so, back on the topic of Suboxone and methadone, it is supposed to be used to help get someone off of an opioid, of heroin. However, it has become the alternative to, right? I'm not going to take heroin, but I'm going to take Suboxone. I'm going to take methadone. And surely I'm not at all saying that these are not drugs that somebody may need, right, to come off of opioids or to come off of heroin. It is a need. However, it is not being regulated. It is. I heard people tell me that they've asked their doctor to wean them down, wean the dosages down, wean the milligrams down, and the doctors have literally refused and said to them, "What do you want to die? Why do you want to come down?" You know.
So I understand that the company that makes Suboxone had multiple lawsuits against them, a class action suit against them, because they were no different than the dope man on the corner. We big dog, and you little companies coming over here, we gonna mash you, gonna mash
Yeah,
you.
they're no different than the opioid, the family who created this epidemic in the first place, right?
Cartels.
That's what you call them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we even have to watch the ways in which we're receiving treatment now, because if you go get help, Donnie, and you enlist in a drug treatment program, it could then backfire and haunt you when it's time for you to go get additional healthcare coverage, a life insurance, things like that. So it's been reported. I've even been rejected life insurance by State Farm because I have a prior history of going to get treatment. So it makes one not even want to go and get any help because it will be used against them in some other way.
The devil is a liar. You're going to get that health care. You're going to get whatever you need because we serve an awesome God. Let me tell you this. No matter how much money Elon Musk has, you know, there's a David Trone running for U.S. Senate. They say he got more money than God. No matter how much money man has, let me tell you what man cannot do. Man cannot make that sun rise every morning. No matter how much money man has, he is not God.
No, I'm very clear.
There is but one. Would you say this is a purpose-driven mission for you?
Mm-hmm. It definitely is. When I found out for justice, it was at a time when I was just coming out of jail, just transitioning from doing the policy work and working in Annapolis and working on the campaigns. And I wanted to find a way to merge my policy expertise with my lived experience of being incarcerated, right? And Out for Justice was that perfect place for me. The mission says that we engage, educate, and empower formerly and currently incarcerated people about the legislative process. And the legislative process it gives me goosebumps when I'm talking about policy. It gives me goosebumps when I'm talking about the legislative process, right? And so I absolutely love navigating government. I love learning about agencies and what their roles are and what they're supposed to do and what they're not supposed to do. I absolutely love helping individuals navigate agencies and know how to walk inside that office and know what that person's job is more than that person knows what their job is, right? And so, yes, it is very purposeful for me. I would not want to be anywhere else.
And no, you don't want their job.
No, don't want their job. We just want to know their job so that they cannot tell us what they aren't going to do and what they can't do. Donnie, I want to thank you so much for being patient with me and getting,
You help people.
I've been dealing with a lot. I've been dealing with a lot this year. My dad passed. I just buried my dad probably a couple Tuesdays ago. Just getting back from a much needed rest, heal, and reflection conference led by Free Her. I don't know if you familiar with Free Her, but Free Her is led by the National Council for Incarcerated Women and Girls. It's a federal, it's an organization that supports policy reform issues specifically for women on the federal level. And so I am a proud member and Maryland ally to the National Council of Women Incarcerated Girls. We have a big rally coming up in DC on April the 23rd. So we're looking for men, but specifically we want to organize the women to descend in DC to eliminate mass incarceration, to get some of our women who have been held in federal custody for 10, 20, 30 years. I think the most notable one you're familiar with is Ms. Gwen Levi, and the National Council supported her
You're
release.
probably watching right now. She
Yeah.
a gangster. You never know when you might see her. We had an event over at COP, and next thing I know, I see Gwen Levi come in the door. She always got a posse with her, and somebody looked like they got a heater, but she is about it. I've met, I think, at least one of her sons, who is one of her big supporters. Family. I met them through Mr. Rudy.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
met Mr. Rudy through Rennie Bass. So it's my pleasure to serve, because but for the grace of God, it could be me, DLP.
I made sure that I sent you the flyer of the all night event. I encourage you to share it on your platform.
It's on. It's up. Be More News.
Thank you so much,
Send
Doni.
out the newsletter, and we will continue to put that out there, as well as other upcoming events. November the 10th, and that's a Friday.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're gonna be keeping people up who ain't up already. Bradford and East Monument. East Monument was a place that saw some unrest during Freddie Gray, for those who may not know. But at the same time, it's the business strip of East Baltimore, particularly adjacent to Johns Hopkins, where Northeast Market is. Jack Young has lunch there just about every day, up in the VIP section.
Don't play with Jack. That's my guy.
So I wanted to go back to this. You told me about the elected officials who have helped you. Do you think a Black elected official should be automatically concerned? So let me just say, at Be More News, we have a 5-point agenda: Black business, public education, returning citizens, affordable housing, universal access to healthcare. In my mind, you cannot represent Black people and not talk about mass incarceration. For you to mention out the break, first one, batter up, Delegate Eric Barron, even though his job now is to prosecute, and the streets have a particular perspective on prosecutors, to know that he has also helped you on the back end in terms of when people come home or what people are dealing with, it really adds a whole, for those who may not know him, other than being a prosecutor, it shows a broader picture, paints a bigger picture of who he is. I guess I'm just wondering, like, now I don't want you to put anybody out there like who hasn't helped you, but I want to know who hasn't helped you. And you don't have to answer that. I ain't trying to burn no bridges, but does everybody
Whatever bridge I burnt, it's been burnt. So, I mean, if I didn't name them, then let me also name two who has helped. And Senator Antonio Hayes, he's been a great help, a great ally, a great ear, right? A listening ear when it comes to strategizing about how we operate as a nonprofit and what resources that we can get. So I want to add Senator Antonio Glover to that list.
Senator Antonio Hayes, and then there's Councilman Antonio Glover.
I mean, no, right. Senator Antonio Hayes. Yes. Sorry. Senator Antonio Hayes.
What about people who have left office, no longer in office? You know, they retired, they lost.
Yeah, back in the day, it was like Cheryl Glenn was a great, especially to the all night event. Cheryl would pop up and give all sorts of supports, chairs, tables, whatever, and not even external accolades.
Very good, Delegate Glenn.
Brandon Scott, prior to him becoming mayor, was very supportive of the all-night event, very supportive of Out for Justice. As mayor, he's become a lot more busy and things are different. But prior to him becoming mayor, when he was city council president and just a city council member, his office was on fire with constituent services and being very responsive to constituents.
Very good. Very good. I'm glad to hear these names. I wish I could hear a lot more, but Senator Antonio Hayes, Delegate Eric Barron, Delegate Stephanie Smith, Delegate Senator Mary Washington, Delegate Gabe Acevero, former Delegate Susan Proctor from PG, Delegate Moon, Montgomery County, Delegate Wilkins.
Yep, Delegate Ampry, he's a new delegate. He showed up for us at our all-night event. Didn't come in his whole delegate mode, but he came just as an attorney supporting. Now Delegate Malcolm Ruff, but he's an attorney with the Billy Murphy firm. He's one of the OGs of the all-nighter and had been.
I don't know if I can get used to that. His name is Malcolm. That guy called him Delegate Ruff. Let me tell you something. That damn prefix in front of your name, some people get really, bent out like, well, anyway, let me shut up. Okay. I love me some Malcolm. Delegate Ruff, I don't know, I'm gonna have to get to know this guy, but
yeah. So Delegate Ruff, but prior to him being Delegate Ruff, he was always a staunch supporter of the all-nighter and was one of those black men who stuck around all night, like literally.
They had to move the Big Gaddy dinner. Did you know
wow.
that? I know, right? They have to move the Big Gaddy dinner. And what was shocking was to know that somebody knew and didn't tell the Big Gaddy Center until 6 weeks out. They just found out last week.
Wow.
And not
sorry
only
about that.
Patterson Park Rec, they have some HVAC issues, but the Catholic Church that they used to use to cook the food all of a sudden started ghosting them.
Wow. Let me also drop one more last name. I don't know how I could forget her, but former State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby was also a very great supporter, both on the policy front and the legal navigation work when it came to bailing out Black mamas and really allowing Out for Justice to work directly with the courts to figure out if these charges were people being overcharged and really looking at these offenses to see if her line attorneys were charging people the right way. Council President Nick Mosby was also a very great supporter in the all-nighter. There's another councilman over in the Bullock, Councilman Bullock at the when we had the all-nighter in Southwest Baltimore, Delegate Bullock showed up and showed out.
When were you in West Baltimore?
Well, we've done 6 all-night events. The first one, we did a back-to-back night. It was Bella and Edison and Frederick and Collins. That was the very first one. Then we went over, Frederick and Collins. Yeah.
West Baltimore.
West Baltimore. Right there by where the Goodwill is, that consignment store, that parking lot right there.
Okay.
With a young lady.
Okay. How long ago? 5 years?
Oh, that was years ago. That was years
How old
ago.
is Out for Justice? Help me out.
Out for Justice is about 10 years old. The all-night event started in 2017.
Okay, you got an anniversary event?
We just had our anniversary last year, Donnie. Where you been at? We just had our big 10-year anniversary gala last year.
Smarty pants. Okay.
You still can make a donation.
Okay.
Yeah, so we
You
did
didn't mention
Frederick and
Jill Carter.
Collins.
You didn't mention Jill Carter. I know you had to cross Jill Carter.
Yeah, we crossed Jill Carter.
Damn. Joan Carter Conway.
Joan Carter Conway helped us with our voting legislation. Yeah, definitely when she was in office, Joan Carter Conway.
So you've had people who are very astute in Annapolis. You had Joan Carter Conway, and I'm gonna throw one last name out there, Dolores Kelly. They have to be.
I didn't really have a lot of interactions with Senator Kelly, but she has done, of course, phenomenal work and historic. You asked me
I
who
got
helped out for justice in those times of need.
I got
Yeah, yeah.
I have known them both to, it's nothing to hear Dolores Kelly talk about people who have written her from prison. Sheila
Yeah.
Dixon was just talking about that's not the state, the city, but
Yeah, you got to remember, back in 2004, I worked for Senator, then Delegate Carter, Senator Carter. So I had a relationship with her kind of prior to Out for Justice.
it's kind of where you got your feet wet.
I got my feet wet with Jill Carter, got my feet wet with Mary Washington as well. I was able
to
to
learn the lay of the land before you can start.
exactly. And those two women are where I learned that from.
How long do you think it takes a delegate to learn where the bathroom is to get the ball rolling? Some people come in off the break.
I think if you're somebody who has no clue of the legislative process, I don't think you should run for state delegate anyway. Like, that's my thing. I think people who are interested in policy and who understands government and understands the legislative process, that's my own personal opinion. How long it takes, I think folks should do what Delegate Regina Boyce did. Her first session, she did not introduce any bills. She took that opportunity to really learn the process, learn what committee she was, going to be on, and just get a lay of the land, right? I think far too often people come into session to Annapolis as new electeds, and they feel like they gotta introduce all these bills, right? But they never read the bill, don't know how to challenge the attorneys who write the bill. They just going off of what they see other people do. And I think that, your first session, you should really take some time, learn who your colleagues are, build your allies, learn the process. And then your next session, you could think about not just introducing a bill, but repealing a bill. I think the Maryland General Assembly needs a whole year of repeals, right? No more adding new laws to the books. Let's work on taking away antiquated, racist, deeply racist pieces of policies off the books for a change.
Got a black governor, black treasurer, black speaker of the House. Makes sense to me. Time to undo. No, Jason. So Jason trying to play backyard quarterback. Jason,
when is Nicole running for delegate?
Jason, this is your last comment because I know.
Can you read me some of the comments, please?
When is Nicole running for delegate?
I'm not.
I was out there, presumably the all-nighter.
He was. Miss Cunningham, thank you so much. Miss Cunningham. Miss Cunningham was the community partner who asked, brought us in the Frederick and Collins neighborhood and kept us, yes, and Jason.
He says, thank you for the work that you and OFJ have done for the community.
Yeah, tell him, Jason, give Doni a history lesson. We've been doing these all-nighters for some time now. We've been in East Baltimore, West Baltimore, back to West Baltimore, Southwest Baltimore. We was at Highlands Market. We've been doing this for a while.
Good. Any final thoughts?
So I have to jump off for my next call, Doni. Thank you so much for having me. Please all your listeners, go to the Out for Justice Facebook page, which is OUTFOR Justice on Facebook. We're also Out for Justice on Instagram. Please share, like, subscribe to our YouTube channel, visit our website, and be a part of the work, right? We're bailing out Black mamas. We're navigating our women and men's release. We're navigating the release of young people. We're teaching the legislative process in a real way that prepares our member body to be able to come to Annapolis and really advocate for themselves. We are leading on voting work, ensuring that individuals who are in pretrial detention have access to the ballot, making sure that individuals who have felony convictions are able to vote. And so let's continue to engage with organizations like Out for Justice. It's more than Out for Justice out here, right? There are all sorts of nonprofits that you could donate your time. And now more than ever, the nonprofit community needs people. We need those individual small contributions. The nonprofit community is under attack. Philanthropy is pulling their dollars away from us. And so we need you, the community, to become sustainers, to donate $5 a month or whatever you have to support the work, because the work is necessary. And you have people like myself and people Out for Justice and partners all over the state who is willing to contribute their lives to ensuring that Black and brown people are able to win, able to live in healthy communities, and able to raise their families. And so thank you so much, Doni.
Thank you. Good morning, world.